Previously on Bit the Bot.
Ugh. I feel like I've been stuck in this room for ages. I need a vacation. Let's see, my bag's packed. Did I leave the sink on? Wait, no, I don't have a sink. Alright, I think I'm ready to go.
Where's my door?
You know what? I don't care what stands in my way. I'm getting out of here.
Alright, so how do I get out of here? This is such a great song. For the most part, people who listen to music don't pay attention to the lyrics, which is understandable. A lot of artists make music not to convey an idea or a point, but rather a feeling. And usually that feeling is just supposed to be good feelings. And yeah, when I play the radio, I don't really want to be blasted by some pretentious, avant-garde song about existential dread. I just want to listen to a fun beat with some catchy lyrics. But sometimes, one may want a little more from music, and that's where the concept album comes in. I define a concept album as any album with an overarching idea or story. And that can be as simple as just theme park, or as complex as the entire H.G. Wells novel. So I think it's important to divide this term up. And tiers are pretty cool, so why not use one of those? At the bottom, we have the concept album light. These are albums with some light idea woven throughout their songs. Some examples are Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum by Tally Hall, and Human After All by Daft Punk. Could argue with that definition though, that most albums fit in this tier. If an artist writes an entire album in a couple of weeks, they'll probably subconsciously write multiple songs about the same or similar topics. And also, if you're a huge fan of a certain album, you'll probably be able to draw connections between songs that might not have been there in the first place, which I'm sure I've done occasionally in this video. So it's crucial with this bottom tier to ensure that the artist intentionally made a concept album. Going up a tier, we get the full-on concept album. These albums have an idea that is heavily discussed and worked through during the album. I'm also going to include albums with a light story, which should probably be their own category, but whatever, it'll make it easier. Examples of this level would be 2112 by Rush and Dark Side of the Moon and Animals by Pink Floyd. The final tier is, for lack of a better term, the rock opera. These albums have heavy plots with beginnings, middles, and ends. My favorite are The Wall by Pink Floyd and Jeff Wayne's musical version of The War of the Worlds, which surprisingly is by Jeff Wayne. To be clear, an album doesn't have to be rock to fit into this tier, but as the rest of this list has shown, rock is my favorite genre, and rock opera just seems to be the best term to describe this category. Also, an album's placement on this list has nothing to do with how much I like it. That's for a later video. This is just to try to divide them up some. Wait! Oh, come on. What the? As I said earlier, there will likely be some contention over whether these albums count as actual concept albums, but I think these albums purposely try to focus on some idea, which is enough for me to consider them concept albums. Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum is the first album by band Tally Hall. Most of its songs are either about love or existentialism, but I don't think that's because this is a concept album about those topics. The ideas of love and existentialism are never really tied together or connected at all, so from my point of view, the songwriters just like writing about it. Instead, Marvin simply focuses on carnivals, circuses, and amusement parks. Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum is also the name of a theme park / arcade in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which most of the band members visited growing up, so I think that pretty much confirms it. The album features atmospheric noises reminiscent of the actual arcade, songs that seem to take place at Marvin's, and quotes from the late founder, Marvin Yagoda. All this to say that the circus theme of the album is much more deliberate than any themes about existentialism and love. The band Daft Punk is one of my favorite artists. Their robotic tunes are inspiring, yet relaxing. Daft Punk is no stranger to telling stories through music, from the soundtrack for Tron Legacy to the song Georgia by Moroder, which features narration on the life of Georgia. But to me, their most story-heavy work is Human After All. Of course, I'm not trying to say this album, whose lyrics have like 2 unique words per song, is trying to tell some deep, complex story, but I do think that there's more going on here than meets the surface. This album is about how humans interact with technology. Songs like Television Rules the Nation and Robot Rock show how machines becoming more and more critical to the creation of art, while songs like Sea Machine and Technologic focus on how important technology is to industry. Songs like Emotion and Human After All are about humanity itself and how robots are slowly infiltrating that too. No song on this album seems out really negative towards human influence on tech, except maybe The Brainwasher, but they still reference it. This album is a fantastic display of how powerful music is. Throughout this list, we'll see how far some artists can push the medium, but I don't think anyone does as much with as little like Daft Punk does here. What is going on? I try to leave, but somehow I forgot I live in a doorless box, and now my wall just opens up and gives me stuff? I just don't get how any of this is possible. It doesn't make any— Ow! Wait. Huh. Now we're getting to the good stuff. These are the undeniable concept albums. Starting off our list is a personal favorite, 2112 by Rush. This album is divided into 2 halves. The first half is a 20-minute sci-fi rock opera, while the second half contains a miscellaneous group of 5 hard rock songs that loosely relate to the theme. While the second half has some great headbangers, I only focus on the first half for this video. 2112 opens with a 4.5-minute overture, reminiscent of the one in Tchaikovsky's 1812. The loud rock and laser-like instruments conjure up images of sci-fi warfare. The second part of 2112, entitled The Temple of Syrinx, focuses on, shockingly, the Temple of Syrinx. This track explains the world of this song, a dystopian civilization void of art, trade, and individuality, which is controlled by the priests of Syrinx and their computer overlords. 2112 then continues into Discovery, which is about an untitled protagonist discovering, a guitar hidden behind a waterfall. He recognizes the instrument as an artifact left by the elder race of humanity, who were kicked out of the planet during the overture. In presentation, he tries to present the guitar to the priests of Syrinx. They criticize the instrument as an unimportant toy, useless to the common good, though it is obvious that the priests are, to some extent, scared by it. They destroy the instrument and send him home. That night, in Oracle the Dream, he sees a vision of a planet where the elder race continues to make art, engineer, and create. When he wakes up, disappointed that he can never reach the world he dreamed about, he ends it in soliloquy. The story ends with another instrumental track, Grand Finale, in which the elder race returns to reclaim the planet and destroy the priests in the temple. This song is, in my opinion, Rush's best work. The story is well written and inspiring, lyrics and singing are great, and the music, the music. Overture and Grand Finale are brilliant pieces of instrumental rock, The Temples of Syrinx is catchy and a headbanger, Presentation and Soliloquy are amazing and emotional tracks, and Discovery and Oracle clearly tell their parts of the story. We'll see later on this list that sometimes concept albums struggle with clear and engaging storytelling, but Rush did not even flinch when it came to 2112. This may be my favorite use of storytelling in music. I can't help but return to it again and again. The lyrics are fantastic and well written, but the way the Mains use instruments, from the laser-like synths to the wailing guitars, is so impressive. You'll see a lot of albums higher up on this list use instruments to do similar things, but none of them quite match how well it's done here. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon is arguably the best album of all time. This is a prime example of the one long song format, another tool that concept albums often use. Artists connect their songs, usually by having some sort of noise beginning in song A and finishing in song B. This kind of smooths the songs out, but can also make for a weird shuffle experience. However, this album is still divided into two halves, as when it was created, albums had to fit onto 22-minute per side records. The overarching theme of this album is insanity, and how different parts of life can cause it, from war to greed to the passing of time. More specifically, the first half of this album tells the story of yet another unnamed protagonist. Though concerning Pink Floyd's other albums, I'll just call him Pink. Pink was born in Speak to Me and taught about life, followed by some father figure and Breathe in the Air. On the Right in Time focused on his adult life, the former about the stress of travel, and the latter about passing and wasting time. Then the Breaking the Sky, he dies. Side B focuses on larger topics in life. Money focuses on greed, Us and Them on war, and though it has no lyrics, Any Color You Like seems to be about the supposed illusion of free will. The title comes from when bassist and lyricist Ryder Waters went to a market and saw a man trying to sell plates of the same color. The man told Waters that they come in any color you like, as long as that color is blue. The finale of the album, Brain Damage and Eclipse, are about mental illness. Like I said earlier, this is one of the best albums ever. The individual songs are great, but the way they use the medium of the album itself is ingenious too. From the moment you see the album artwork to the last heartbeat and Eclipse, you are immersed in this nice, relaxing but also sort of melancholy and cinematic mood. The use of sound effects, quotes, and leitmotifs is incredible. Like the final quote in Eclipse, the sounds of airplanes in airports and On the Run, or the reprise of Breathe in the Air at the end of time, to tie in the beginning of Pink's life to the end. It's genius and so cool, and I really just wish we would hear more stuff like it. Another example of Pink Floyd's concept album work is their album Animals. Animals by Pink Floyd kind of does the opposite of Dark Side of the Moon. Instead of an album comprising shorter songs that form one or two larger pieces, it's an album with just a few individual, really long songs. While the album is bookended by the incredibly short Pigs on the Wing 1 and 2, within those two are three musical epics. Dogs, reaching 17 minutes, Pigs, 3 different ones, which is 11.5 minutes, and Sheep, at 10 minutes. Pigs on the Wing 1 and 2 are love songs. The former is about how horrible life would be if the singer and his love interest hadn't found each other. The latter is about how life isn't terrible because they have. The middle 3 tracks are a sort of parody or allusion to George Orwell's Animal Farm. That book uses a fairy tale about an independent animal nation to satirize communist Russia, while Pink Floyd's Animals uses animals to parody the capitalist society in Britain. This album divides people into 3 groups, each with a song dedicated to them. At the top are the pigs, who represent the corrupt and controlling government and politicians. Below them are the dogs, or businessmen. Dog tells the story of a businessman who gains power, but after all the backstabbing and being backstabbed, slowly falls off his game and overworks himself to death. The dogs act as the henchmen for the pigs, doing the actual work while the pigs profit. At the bottom of the hierarchy are the sheep, or the peasants/general population. They start off just passively working, but eventually after being used, decide to rise up in order to take the dogs and the pigs. However, they quickly, like in one line of lyrics, become the very thing that they had just destroyed. What sets this album apart from others is how developed this idea and hierarchy are. Human, after all, acknowledges that humans and technology interact, while here we dive headfirst into this topic. Also, Pink Floyd is a great band. Each of the middle 3 songs has its own unique and brilliant guitar solo by David Gilmour. The lyrics are great, and you just get this feeling listening to this album that there was a lot of passion behind it. This is the opportunity I've been waiting for, but at the same time, how do you even know something is out there? What if this is all there is? I don't know. Do I really want to stay here forever? Oh my gosh. I don't know what to do. Pink Floyd's The Wall is an 80-minute rock opera epic and probably the defining concept album for most people. Written by Roger Waters, it tells the semi-autobiographic story of Pink, a mentally fragile rock star. The album begins with Pink's childhood. After his father dies in World War II, his overbearing mother sends him to boarding school, all while London is being bombed. The album then jumps to Pink's rock career and his love life. He meets a girl who immediately either A, cheats on him, or B, he abuses, causing her to leave. Or maybe both, I'm not sure. This weighs a lot on Pink's mental state, and he loses it. He overdoses and descends into an emotional downward spiral. But his producer finds him in his apartment right before his show, puts him on some painkillers, and sends him on his way. During the show, he hallucinates, and sees himself as a leader of a certain radical political movement, the same one that killed his father, and his audience as followers. They parade around town, tormenting different people groups, before Pink once again has another breakdown. Now he puts himself on trial, with his teacher, wife, and mother all being brought as witnesses. For the crimes he committed against them, he is forced to tear down the wall. The wall focuses on the metaphorical walls that we put up to protect ourselves from the outside. When Pink's dad leaves to fight in World War II and never returns, when he's abused in school, when his wife cheats on him, another brick is added to the wall. But as revealed in the trial, Pink is not a good guy. Each brick he adds to the wall affects not just him, but the people around him, the people he paints as evil. When his dad dies, he's angry at him for leaving. When his mother overparents him, he neglects the fact that she has just lost her husband and that he is her only son. And when he scares his wife away, he does it by expecting the same emotional love he received from his mother. While the epic rock guitar paints the destruction of his wall as a negative thing, it's clear after it happens that he needed it to fall. Outside the wall, he can be open and loving to people. But of course, he just goes right back in. Then the wall actually loops with the start, showing that he and one can never really escape the wall. It's a bit of a depressing ending, and one that I don't necessarily agree with, but still a beautiful album. Pink Floyd's brilliant musical talent shine brightly here, in classics like Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 and Comfortably Numb. The use of sound effects is also present here, so is pretty much everything that makes a Pink Floyd album a Pink Floyd album. It's excellent and probably the most iconic concept album of all time. The Wall also has a movie of the same name, featuring slightly revised versions of the music to better fit the film. It is a very well-made movie, with some really brilliant shots and animation, but those videos aren't called Concept Albums I Like Bit Edition. They also have movies, so I won't discuss it here. But if you like the album, you will surely enjoy it too. Jeff Lynne's musical version of The War of the Worlds is the greatest concept album on this list. It pretty closely follows the story of the HBO sci-fi classic. The Martian invasion of Earth, which in the story is really just Britain, the aftermath, and the Martians' extinction due to all the new bacteria in the air. There really is nothing like it. It's a musical with a complex story that is totally comprehensible based on soundtrack alone, which is actually pretty impressive. This album is brilliant. It's catchy, but like I said earlier, it doesn't sacrifice its story for its music or do the opposite. Usually you have to read and watch videos to figure out what an album is about. I had to watch an entire film to figure out The Wall, yet this album is able to tell a story without any additional reading and still has me humming it on the way home. So, what makes the album so much better than the rest? Well, I have a few ideas. First, it gives its cast characters distinct singing voices. In many earlier albums, one singer plays every character, which means you can only know if a character is speaking based on context. It's much harder to understand what a character is saying if I can't be sure who's saying it. Second, it uses sound effects and leitmotifs. When I hear that synth, I know what's going on. I know that there's a Martian tripod. When you repeat the same tune from song A and song B, I'm reminded of song A. A brilliant example is the melody with the lyrics.
The chances of anything coming from Mars are 1,000,000 to 1, he said.
That comes back during the Martian invasion of Britain. Jeff Lynne also uses sound effects and instruments to explain what's happening without narrating it. I don't need the narrator to give me a play-by-play of a battle when the lasers and guitars can do it for him. Lastly, while it seems like cheating, the narration in this album is also helpful. Not everything can be described and still be easily understandable through music and song lyrics. Sometimes I just need to be told what's going on. Now, like keys, not to overuse it, to keep it to a minimum. But if you need to use it, use it. And it wouldn't hurt if you got a narrator with just an awesome voice. Eureka! I figured it out! I finally finished my 4-hour dystopian avant-garde progressive rock opera about robot pizza delivery.
Yum, 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 yum.
Oh yeah, I was probably thinking about that leaving thing now. I guess I don't really have any better options, so here goes nothing.